Hoy nuestro episodio va a ser en Spanglish, ¿verdad, Marigenia? It's going to be a Spanglish episode. We're going to be talking
Yep.
en los dos idiomas. Creo que vamos a tener un episodio sobre algo que va a tocar mucho nuestro corazón porque tiene que ver con nuestro amor por Puerto Rico. En este episodio vamos a estar hablando con una persona que ha tenido una experiencia completamente opuesta a la que Marigenia y yo tenemos. Nosotros nos mudamos de Puerto Rico las dos, estamos en la diáspora puertorriqueña acá en Estados Unidos, y nuestra invitada hoy es una persona americana que se fue a vivir a Puerto Rico. Así es que voy a dejar que Marigenia nos las presente, pero estén bien atentos porque creo que va a ser un episodio que nos va a tocar el corazón.
Y para darle contexto a los que están escuchando, a Rosa y yo grabamos un episodio de la diáspora hace como un mes o 2 meses.
No, hace más, hace bastante. Sí,
Ok,
bastante.
whatever, whenever. Entonces queremos oír de the opposite side. So I'm going to switch to English now as I introduce Rae. So Rae, I don't know Rae personally.
Me neither.
Well, no, but I'm the one
No,
who
I
invited
know.
her
I'm just
here.
saying that none of us know her.
Yeah, and so I invite her. The way I know Rae is I don't know why it was her page was on Instagram was recommended to me, and I started following her and have been completely fascinated by her experience and her journey and how she tells her experience having moved from the US to Puerto Rico. So that's all I can say as far as introducing Rae. We're gonna have a bunch of questions for her, but Rae, I'm so excited you accepted my invitation to join us.
I
So
am so
welcome.
excited too. When Marigenia mentioned Rae, I was like, Marigenia, reach out. Maybe she says yes, maybe she says
She's like,
no.
who is she? Share the page with me so I know who she is.
I'm so honored. I'm so glad you guys reached out because I love stuff like this. Like, you two are so fun already. So just from the little bit I got to get to know you before the episode, I'm really excited to be here. So thank you.
Tell us about you. How did you end up in Puerto Rico, and where from the U.S. do you come from? So tell the
Yeah,
audience
that's
who
the
you
first
are.
question.
Tell us who you are and how you ended up being a micro influencer living in Puerto Rico. And the last time I went into your page, you were promoting Airbnbs in Puerto Rico.
See?
Yeah, in Naguabo, I think she went to Naguabo
Yes.
and stayed there. And by the way, you are presenting and representing and presenting Puerto Rico with such love, like as if you were a true Puerto Rican. So thank you for that.
I love Puerto Rico. Like, there's nothing that's so genuine and authentic. And I have this strong love for Puerto Rico and especially for Puerto Rican owned businesses. I love when you live in a place and small businesses or entrepreneurs that are from that place have
Yeah.
businesses that are not only because they're from, the area you live in, but also because, okay, Puerto Rico is so underrated when it comes to like their food and when it comes to like the experiences they have on the island. I was shocked when I moved over here and when I ate at restaurants and I was like, holy crap, this is some of the best food I've ever had in my life. And so I just started sharing stuff like that because I've always had this passion for like helping small businesses and entrepreneurs and just like in any way I could. And so when I knew I could share something like, hey, like go eat at this place, and then I'd go back to that restaurant and that owner would say, hey, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, we got all these new customers. That alone was like a win, right? I was like, Kate, I'm going to keep doing this if that's what that means, is helping these small businesses get more people in their doors, because that's who deserves to thrive here on this island, right? Is like those Puerto Ricans who own these businesses and who do that for a living. And it's not just because they do that, but it's because they're so good at it. Like, they're so, so, so good at it.
Even the panaderias, right?
Yeah, you can't get me started. We'll be here all day.
Yes, yes.
Oh my God. But
Interestingly, Ray, what you just said, it's probably, it got me with goosebumps because after Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico has been very intentional. I don't think it's been a plan. I think it has come from the heart of Puerto Ricans to create things that come from our own roots, you know? So those businesses that you see that are being created, the coffee shops, the gastro bars, the healthy places to go and eat, all these places are owned by individuals who are starting their own businesses from zero. And that is the true, real Puerto Rican. That is the base of the island. So the
Yeah.
fact that that is the first thing that you're sharing makes me understand the reason why you connected with Puerto Rico the way you have. Because you're not talking to me about what everybody talks about Puerto Rico, the beach or the palms. Or you're talking to me about how we're trying to survive in this island. And for you, that's kind of like the first thing that calls your attention.
That is
So
very true. Yeah.
so I think, yeah.
That's very cool. But let's back up a little bit and tell us where you're from, where you were raised, and
How did you
I
get to Puerto
even want
Rico?
to, yeah, and how I know how you got to Puerto Rico, but I want to hear about your upbringing and then meeting your husband, etc.
And
So
how she got to Puerto Rico? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
Ana-Rosa, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I feel bad. I
No,
totally cut you off. But
no, no.
you said something that just like reminded me. I always so I grew up in Utah mostly, and then when I was 16, I moved to Arizona and finished high school there. Met my husband, got married, and then we moved to Idaho so he could go to school. So I've kind of, when you say like where are you from, I kind of claim all three as home: Utah, Idaho, Arizona. The three, I don't even know what to call that little strip right there, but all three of them are home to me, and they hold a very special place in my heart. Um, but I grew up with a dad who is an entrepreneur and who's always, since I was 10, he decided to leave his teaching job and do his own thing and do his own business. So I grew up in that family of just the unknown, not really knowing. It wasn't. I would never say we were poor because I felt very rich. Was rich with my family. I was rich with we always had what we needed. And and my dad was always working so hard and watching him put his whole heart and soul into his business. And I just remember praying and asking God to help his business thrive. I was like, please, he works so hard. This man works so hard. Please just bless him with the success that he, is trying to get. And so it's always
Oh,
been something that's just engraved into me. So when we moved here, I met my husband in Arizona, and he loves eating. He loves looking up places to eat. He loves, those kind of experiences.
Like a
He lived in
foodie.
yeah, exactly. He lived in Argentina for a while, so he kind of got that a little bit. But I was always jealous because I never really got that. And so even I remember we went on our honeymoon to Mexico, and we went to a small little pueblo over there, and I was like, I want to live here. And he was
Oh
like,
my God.
I don't know if we should move to Mexico. I don't know if that's the right move. And I was like, no, this is amazing. This is incredible. And so we moved. Anyway, we ended up in Idaho for school. And he always told me he wanted to be a dentist. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to support you in whatever way I can. And so I worked full time while he focused on school solely. And then he graduated and applied to different dental schools. And the one in Puerto Rico was the one that he got into. So, I mean, he
how
applied
did
to
he even apply to a school in Puerto Rico?
he
Where?
applied to 22 different schools, and then there was one in Puerto Rico, and I was like, you should apply there, and he's like, oh, I don't know, because he was reading about that school, and it said their acceptance rates for people outside of Puerto Rico wasn't very high. And so he's like, I don't know, because it costs a lot of money to apply. He's like, I don't know if I should spend money there because my odds of getting in aren't very high, so he didn't apply. And then in May, May of 2024, we got an email from a new school in Puerto Rico, and they were like, hey, we decided that we're taking applicants for this fall. And my husband had been waitlisted on a few schools in the States, but he hadn't got accepted into anything. And so I was like, why not? Maybe this is it. And he's like, all
What
right.
is the name of the school in Puerto Rico?
This one is at Ana Jimenez in
Oh,
Oh,
it's
yes.
it's a new program over there.
Yeah, they are doing new programs in a lot of fields. Awesome.
So they have
we know Ana
they have
Jimenez
three
well.
now, but
Wow, that is
yeah.
so cool. So then he applied, he got accepted, and there
He
you are.
did. I think he was only one of 10 people out of his whole class who got accepted from the States. So it wasn't, they would mostly accepted those from the island of Puerto Rico, which makes perfect sense. But we just felt really lucky. We felt really lucky and really grateful that he got he was chosen to be one of the few from the States. And so we were really excited. I had just had my baby. He got accepted in the beginning of June 12th, I think is when that all happened. And then I had my baby June 18th. And then he flew
Oh,
to
wow.
Puerto Rico for orientation like July 10th. And then he moved here.
You had a newborn.
And yeah, so it was a kind of a crazy process, the whole thing. It was, we
Oh,
were just,
wow.
and I had never been to Puerto Rico. He had never been to Puerto Rico. Like, we didn't know much about
What?
it, but, and so we were
So
just like,
you accepted this and you moved to Puerto Rico without ever being there?
yeah, yeah. And he got
Wow.
found an apartment to rent from this very sweet Puerto Rican lady. And I didn't know what it looked like. I was just like, all right, hopefully it's
Wow.
okay.
Where do you live near El Señorial by chance?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I've ever heard of that.
Oh, sorry, that's a mall. But
Oh,
whereabouts in Puerto Rico do you live?
we're in Caguas.
Ah, okay, you're in
Caguas.
Caguas.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Oh my goodness, Ray, this is so cool.
It is. It's
So
Oh my
then,
God.
beautiful.
so then you moved to Puerto Rico. This was
Uh-huh.
how long ago?
Exactly a year, actually, maybe to the day, like a year ago this week. So
A year ago.
Wow.
And you have two kids.
I do have two kids. I have a when we moved here, my son was only, I think he was 20 months old, so he was just under 2 years old, and then I had my 2 month old, and yeah, just us.
So
So
now so now you have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, something like that?
Yeah, yeah. My baby just turned 1, and then my toddler's almost 3. So
Okay. And have you gone through like the culture shock of, living in a place where you don't speak the language? It's a different well, you sort of don't speak the language. It's a different culture, everything. Have you gone through like a culture shock?
yeah, I guess the question would be, what has been your biggest challenge
Oh yeah.
in
you
this move?
That's a great question. I feel like looking back, I think there was a little culture shock. When I was in the moment, I would say no. Like, I'd probably tell you I just loved it and it was great. But looking back, I was like, oh yeah, there was a little bit of an adjustment period, where I was very far. My family lives in Idaho. My husband's family still lives in Arizona. And so we were very far from our families. I had a brand new baby, and going to the grocery store or going, even to a drive-through or anything like that, it was weird because there are people who do speak a lot of English, but I also didn't want to, I don't know, something in me just didn't feel right to just, say like, oh, tú hablas inglés, like try to like get them to speak English instead of getting me to speak Spanish. I really wanted to push myself and be like, okay, how can I, adapt to trying to communicate with them rather than having them adapt to communicating with me. I don't know. It's so if that made much sense, but it was difficult to just go and feel very alone. I've always been that person to talk to someone at the grocery store or just, compliment someone as
I can tell.
if I like their shirt but I was like, I don't know how to say that, and I could guess, but then I don't want it to come across as like offensive or rude if I say the wrong thing or I was very nervous. So I think that I just had a lot of anxiety more than anything, just because it was so new and so different. And a lot of things are, it's a very modern island. I mean, like, I still have a washer and dryer. I still have running water and electricity and things like that. So I feel like it wasn't culture shock in the sense of not having what I needed, but it was just being new and alone on an island where I just didn't know the language. It was
That,
uh,
yeah, it was. I
nice.
think that when you move, regardless of where you move, moving is one of the top three causes of depression and anxiety in terms of managing that. Death of a loved one and divorce being the other two. So pretty heavy, the moving from your country to another country. So I can totally get why that would have been your challenge. It was mine as well when I moved here. But one additional challenge, which for me was very hard, not for Marigenia, but for me was very hard, and I want to hear your take on that when you went to Puerto Rico, was the the way how people were, how do I say this? So Puerto Ricans are very talkative and very warm, and you get into an elevator and everybody says good morning, everybody talks to you. And here it's a little bit the opposite. Like nobody talks to you. You don't know your neighbors. I can be a year living here and I have not ever seen my front neighbor.
That's
So
crazy.
that is very, my experience here, I always say that I was having emotional growing pains
That makes sense.
moving here because people here are very different.
And by the way, for me as well, Rosa, I just sorry to cut you off, but I just came back. I was in Puerto Rico last week, and I was taking my mom to doctor's appointment, and we would come in to the doctor's appointment, or we were sitting in the waiting area, and everybody who came in said buenos dias, and then if they were exiting, buenas tardes, like Ana-Rosa said, you get into an elevator and people say hi to you. That doesn't happen in the U.S.
No, yeah, the
Nothing wrong.
personalities, the profile of the Puerto Rican is very different than the American. So for me, that was very hard. So I wonder the opposite for you, coming from the States and going there. How was the way people were different for you? How has that
What,
feel
and
for
was that
you?
intimidating? Because that's not for everyone.
No, that's a very great question, and because I can see where you're coming from, especially the areas like the states that you live in, and like typically, like it's like I from my experiences in in Washington and different things, like I feel that I lived in California and Florida both for a little bit as well, and it is very different. But I feel like I don't know. I think I was just this little weirdo growing up, and like my family was kind of weird in the sense of like we just talked to everyone. Like we did love. My dad was that guy who like my mom would be like, okay, like maybe they're not acting like they want to talk to you, so you should probably stop talking. Like he would be like at the beach in California and be like, "Whoa, yeah, like, hey, how are you doing? Like, how's it going, dude? My kid did this, blah blah blah." And my mom was like, "Okay," like, kind of reeling him in all the time. But I loved growing up and watching him. Like, he was always making connections like that. And so as I grew up and just started, I'm like the same way. I love talking to people, and so
That's
trying to
so
create
cool.
conversation like that was very fun for me. And so moving to Puerto Rico, I kind of felt like I just like the only difference was I didn't know the language. And so once I learned, I'm like, okay, if I can get out of my house before 11, I can say buenos dias or buen dia or to everyone or just buenas. Like, and it's so
Or
fun.
just buenas.
Cool. Yeah, and you walk. I'm like, that covers all times of the day. Like, that's amazing. I don't even think about what time it is. Like, and so you go to the store, and I'm like, oh, buen dia, or I'll be like, oh, hola, cómo estás? And it's fun because people actually talk back to you. Whereas in the States, you're like, hey, and they're like, okay, like,
And and and
sometimes it's
I don't mean to make the Americans sound not like there's no judgment, or it's
no.
just a different culture.
It is, and they're much more reserved, much more reserved. And I feel like growing up in the States, I just knew that. You just knew. So hearing people point that out here, it's like, oh yeah, like because you just know. But here, I can understand why you wouldn't just know that because everyone here is so friendly. Where that's just not normal in the States. I feel like growing up in, especially when I moved to Arizona, it was a lot more like not cold, but just reserved. Like we had said, and so learning to create your own bubble of like, hey, and just trying to not care if someone doesn't respond. It's a challenge, and sometimes still it hurts your pride a little bit. You're like, okay, this is awkward. I just, but coming to Puerto Rico, it was beautiful because I was like, they talk back to me, or they just having kids helps too because everyone wants to come and talk to your kids here. Where in the States, that
Yes.
was not. I love having kids in Puerto Rico because they're just so friendly and everyone is so much more understanding if your kid is screaming at the store or you're in church and they're running around and you're just like what. Whereas in the States it's just the culture. I do feel a little bit more uncomfortable where I'm like, oh, please stop crying, because people are giving you dirty looks like control your kid versus being in Puerto Rico they're like, oh, we love the kids, we love that. It is different, and I feel like that's okay to say because it just is what it is. Like that's just.
How would you describe a Puerto Rican to someone? If you would describe the personality of a Puerto Rican, how would you describe that?
I'd say happy, happy, loving, and fun. Like they are so much fun. They are Puerto
Yeah.
Ricans, and I'm just generalizing here, right? I mean, you know, there's
Of
lots of
course.
different kinds of people, but overall, they are some of the funnest people. Like the way that they laugh and the way that they just like don't take life too seriously. I feel like going back, we went back to the States just this summer to visit family, and I didn't realize that I had changed at all until we were in the States, and my
Yep.
sister-in-laws, and they were all talking about things, or and I was like, why do you all care about that? Like it's just so interesting to here I feel much more relaxed and much more just like, take me as I am. This is who I am. Whereas in the States, I do, the areas we come from, it's like, okay, you got to put up a little more of a guard sometimes where, you got to protect your peace. You got to protect that a little bit.
Well, they say that Puerto Rico is one of the happiest places to live.
I
So
believe that. I feel so happy here, genuinely, like very, very happy. It's a beautiful.
I love to hear that. I love to hear that. And in Ray, in terms of there's a lot of challenges in terms of the infrastructure in Puerto Rico. The power outages.
especially after Maria, because it didn't used to be that way.
Nah, I think pretty much. But I think that Maria was a laser to all these situations. But I think that we've always had issues with the power. Now after Maria has
Rosa,
been,
when we grew up, it wasn't like that.
no, Marina, pero when I moved from Puerto Rico, we already had generators at home because the power would leave, we would have constant power outages all the time and hurricanes coming. But now after Maria, then it's become very, very practically unsustainable. But how have you felt? How it has that, because that is something that here you don't have to worry about. The power outages and the speed of things and the way things work.
Island time.
There's no
Time. It is a real
island
thing.
time or island style. So what do you have to say about that?
I do feel like, I mean, it's personally, and this is just me speaking from my own experience, right? I don't know if Cogwis just doesn't happen as frequently. When we first moved here a year ago, so I wonder if there's been a lot of changes too in the last year. But when we first moved here, the power did go out fairly frequently. I'd say like at least once or twice a week. But since 2025, I mean, we had a big blackout, right, in April for 3 days, and we don't have a generator or we don't have solar or anything like that. We're saving up to get something like that, but in the moment we don't have anything, and so it's. But I've noticed the last few months it hasn't been very bad. I mean, it hasn't the power hasn't gone out as much as it'll go through phases. I feel like sometimes the island will have like multiple during the month, and then other times it's like maybe one or two that month. Like it's very sporadic almost. It's not. There's no consistency to it. But I
Okay.
do feel like there's a lot of people who, since Maria, have generators. There's a lot of people who have solars too. There's a lot of things like that, and I don't know what it's like on the west side of the island or on, up closer to San Juan. But in Cagos, at least, I feel like you just get used to it too, I think. Like you said, you were saying that you feel like that didn't happen a lot growing up. Whereas like you were saying that it happened all the time growing up. I think you just adapt. Like I think you kind of forget too. You're like, oh, it's out again. And it just becomes part of life. Like it's out for like 3 or 4 hours. And, we're poor dental students. We're living off of like food stamps and whatever else. So we're not exactly, we don't have all this money to go out to eat and go out to whenever the power goes out. But you adapt and you're like, okay, it looks like we're having some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for dinner. It looks like we're making this work. Like it's not, you just, I don't feel angry about it. I don't know. I just feel like it's like, well, the power's out again. That's just part of.
Well, after Hurricane Maria, um, there were a lot of videos, and I posted one on my Instagram account where, people that lost their home, people that have no power, they're just out singing and playing the pandereta. I don't know how to say pandereta. Um, just playing music and dancing, and I'm like, oh my God, how resilient
Yes.
do you are can you be?
Puerto Ricans, that's one thing Puerto Ricans have taught me is their resilience it's incredible. Their love for the island is incredible where they just make anywhere their happy place. Like you would not be able to tell if the power's out and it's like, all right, let's go help each other. The stoplights aren't working. Someone gets out of their car and they're like, all right, I'm gonna direct traffic, and you're like, who are you? Like, it's just some guy.
Yes.
Ah,
It's not
that's my
even-
dad. My dad used to do that.
It's awesome. I'm like, you just volunteered to go stand out in the heat for the next 4 hours while you direct traffic. Like, you're not getting paid for this. You're not. But people just create, like, they just help each other. It's just something, that I feel like I will forever be changed after living in Puerto Rico, no matter where I live, whether we stay here, whether we go somewhere else.
That's
because
so
of
cool.
The kindness of the people here.
Change positively,
Oh,
hopefully.
100%.
Because of,
And that's a good segue for a question that I have, because you mentioned how proud Puerto Ricans are. And if there is one Puerto Rican that is super proud of Puerto Rico, is Bad
I
Bunny.
knew you were gonna say.
I mean, he has made Puerto Rico
you were waiting for us to bring him to the conversation.
Good old Bad
he has made Puerto Rico the stage of his residency.
Yes.
I mean, people like LeBron James, people from all over are flying to Puerto Rico, not just the US, but other places, just to see him, because he has decided that, hey, if you love me, you come to my home and you watch me here. What do you make of it? Are you planning on going, by the way?
I'm not, just because I don't. Tickets are just expensive, and I feel like too. It's so many Puerto Ricans have been looking forward to this for years. Like, I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm like, I don't know. I don't listen to a whole lot of his music personally.
Me
So
neither.
I'm like, I'd rather give that ticket, that opportunity to somebody else. I'm not going to buy a ticket and take that from somebody who's dying to go, because there are people who are like, oh my gosh, I need to get into
But
this concert.
but hopefully, because like I said, I was in Puerto Rico last week, and I was telling my friends from here, from Seattle, I'm like, this is a whole different island, because this is now the island of Bad Bunny.
Well,
I mean,
yeah. Sorry, keep going.
I don't listen to his music, and sorry to say this, but I'm not a fan. But I am a fan of what he's doing for our island. I love how proud he is.
Yes.
I am a fan. I am a fan. I have to tell you. I've been
Ana-Rosa
listening.
went to his concert.
Yeah,
You
I've been here.
did?
Yes,
Did you
but I was
enjoy it?
invited. I was invited by a friend, but my two daughters were going, and they were so insistent that they wanted me to go. So I said, okay. So I said to the friend who invited me, I said, of course, I'm going with you. And I have to tell you that I am a fan of him since day one.
Oh, that's cool.
uh, because my daughters loved him. So I've approached Bad Bunny with a curiosity lens, because at the beginning I couldn't understand why he was such an impact to people, because of there's a lot of issues with him because of his cursing and things like that. So, but at the same time, there was such an euphoria around him from day one, that for me, because of what I do, I wanted to approach it with curiosity. So that has been my approach with him from day one, instead of judgment, because it's easy to go to judgment when he's so
No, but
radical.
there are a lot of artists, like you listen to Sabrina Carpenter and Olivia Rodrigo and even Taylor Swift. They also swear in their songs.
No, but this is extra. I think it's a little bit more. But anyway, and the way the lyrics sometimes,
The type of music is also very.
I honestly, I have to tell you, I love it. Even with the bad words, I just love it. I dance it. I sing it.
I would have been
I,
miserable in that concert.
I connect with my daughters. I connect with the young people. But what I'm trying to say is that with that lens of curiosity, what I have been able to learn, and I'm still curious because I'm really in shock with what he has become. So I can see how he's a mastermind, and what he has done is put a lens on exactly what you mentioned at the beginning of this podcast. This is who Puerto Rico is. We are great at what we are. We can be great entrepreneurs. We're great at whatever profession we decide we want to be. And Puerto Rico, we've been always treated as second-class citizens by the United States, and I think we've always lacked some sort of sense of belonging. We belong to Puerto Rico, but we are not independent, and at the same time, we're not part of the US. So that leaves us in a very gray area. And that becomes, in a way, you grow up learning to be a second class because we would receive things after. So you learn to live that way. When I moved here to Puerto Rico, to the States, I remember being in the school board meeting, and I saw the parents, demanding the principal for turf on the field. And I was like, this was the first meeting, and I'm like, what the heck is happening here? I was like, these people are wrong. They have not seen the private school I was in. I had my girls was a third or less than a third of the school, the public school here. And then I started to learn how you pay taxes, and then you are the tax holder, and you can demand, and all those things. And I was in shock because I realized how used to not demanding things I was, just to be okay with whatever you receive. Be okay with the power leaving every other day. Be okay with having to make a line because people are not getting on time to their desk and they are clerks. Be okay with calling for the water department and having to call 4 days in a row with no answer. You just get used to that, but you don't even know that there's an alternative. Bad Bunny has shown the world who we are at the core. The power of who Puerto Ricans are, and proud of it. And one of the things he did in the concert that I took away with me was he said at a specific moment, he said, as Puerto Ricans, we have a responsibility. Wherever we go outside of this island, we have a responsibility of show people who Puerto Ricans are. And I felt so proud. I really felt like, okay, I'm taking this responsibility with me.
And he's doing it in a way, because I would say 15 years ago, Ricky Martin
Did it in a way
became.
too.
Wait, let me say this. Like, he put Puerto Rico on the map, but he wasn't as transparent and honest about, Puerto Rico is this and it's awesome. It also has these challenges, but I don't care because I love my island. And the transparency that Bad Bunny is transmitting is contagious, and
That's
it's
true. That's so true.
magnifying.
Yeah.
Because Ricky Martin or any other artist, they just put Puerto Rico on the map, and they share their music, and the music from
And
Puerto
they're proud,
Ricans
and
are,
they're proud of Puerto Rico.
yeah.
But I
Oh
agree,
no,
Marigenia, that's so true. Bad Bunny is very raw and real. And he gives you, he's telling you, so this is us with the good, the bad, and the ugly. But we're amazing. And, and that is awesome.
I love that
So,
yeah.
perspective. I love that perspective because I feel like you can see too, like what you said about Ricky Martin and all that Bad Bunny and everything. Like there's a progression almost, of like
Yeah.
they had to start somewhere, and then now Bad Bunny's at a point where he's like he can do that. Like that's they kind of opened the door, and he really has, I don't know, shed a different kind of light on things that it is, like you said, it's very admirable that he's so raw and so real and so honest and so.
And he's so honest that he refuses to even speak English. He was on SNL,
Uh-huh.
and he did his introduction in Spanish.
I love that. That's so cool.
And then there were subtitles for Americans to understand. But
yeah.
I mean,
So,
you
Ray,
cannot get more real.
how do you feel about this patriotism? Because right now when I went to Puerto Rico, I was in Puerto Rico for 3 weeks. I just came back. Oh my God, you feel the patriotism all over in every corner of the island. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that when you move around in your area?
Oh yeah, I love it. I think it's great. That was one thing when my mom came with me when we first moved here to help me move the boys here, and she was like, "The flag is everywhere. Like their flag is
Yeah.
all over. It's spray painted on every inch of this island. Like it's painted or it's whatever. Like." And my mom was like, "I love that. That is so cool. Like that's so cool that she's like, Americans could learn something. I mean, like those from the States could learn something too from those who live in Puerto Rico. Like, wow, this is." There is that pride in the sense of like it belongs to you, and so you're gonna take care of it, and you're gonna do what you can to like proudly represent that to the best of your ability, which I feel like too is why Puerto Ricans are so kind and why they're so loving and why they're so, because they're in their core, they know that's who they are and they know who they represent, you know? I love
I
it.
love that. What do you think? What do you think Americans can learn from Puerto Ricans?
So many things.
Tell me, tell
So
me.
many things. So many things. I'm like, where do I even start with this? I feel like, I guess I could start with what? One thing. Well, okay, no, let me organize my thoughts. Obviously what we had hit on, the kindness, the love, the loving people. I've been more loved here by people who don't know me and by people who don't speak any English. There's one lady here who I love and I consider her one of my very best friends, and we do not speak the same language. Like, I'm speaking broken Spanish and she's speaking broken English, and there's more of a connection there than sometimes I have with my own family members who speak perfect English. Like, it's very, very beautiful. I feel like we could learn to just love people as they are, take them for, who they are, regardless of, and not try to change people, but just love them where they're at. That's one big lesson I have learned from Puerto Ricans, because I've experienced that firsthand. It's just not even just her. There's been multiple people who have just been like, hey, Rae, like one lady calls me her little gringa, right? Like, oh, you're my little gringa. I'm gonna take care of you. Like, and I'm just like you just feel safe. They make you feel so safe, and so at home, even though you're thousands of miles away from where you grew up. And I just feel like that's something that as Americans in general and as a whole, we could just be so much better at just loving people where they're at. And that's, there's people who are better at that, worse than that than others, whatever. So I hate to just throw a blanket over that, but I feel like just as a human, you can learn to just be better at that. Just be better at loving. I thought I was a pretty loving person before I moved here, and I've changed so much. I'm I love people harder now than I ever have, and I'm sure by the time my husband's done with school, it'll be even greater. It's such a big thing. And I think the second lesson would be, it's kind of, I think everyone in the United States, no matter where you live, you need to learn both Spanish and English. I feel like I wish I would have grown up learning Spanish. I think Puerto Ricans are some of the most underrated, most intelligent group of people, because they just, like you said, that you just become used to adapting to, oh, I don't have power. Oh, I don't, oh, I have to learn English. Oh, I have to whatever. But because of that, I'm so impressed with so many Puerto Ricans and how smart they are. I'm you guys are so smart. The way, not even for just knowing a second language, but they'll do things or say things that are just second nature to them that I'm I would have never thought of that. Because they've, maybe grown up without the power on, maybe grown up with having to be so patient and wait hours and hours in line for doctor's appointments, or, so just learning that second language, starting there. I feel in public schools all throughout the States, you should be required to speak Spanish. That is that's just a personal opinion, but I think that is a big thing.
I think that's
And I'm sure
true.
everybody's calling you, hola, mi amor.
Oh, I
Hola,
love
cariño.
So,
By
Rae,
the way,
when people visit Puerto Rico, when you have people who visit, what would be the three things that you would take them to do first? What would be three things that you would take Puerto Ricans to do?
try a quesito.
Visitors.
That's a great question. I think it depends on who the person is, number one. But if there's someone, that I'm trying to think, if my mom came to visit for the first time, I would take her to try quesitos. That would be the first thing, right? We'd go hit up a couple different panaderias, and I'd get her multiple quesitos, and I'd say, okay, we need to try, because they don't make them the same everywhere.
They don't.
And everyone has different preferences. So some people like them thicker, some people like them flakier, some people like them thinner. I'm still trying to decide what my preference is. I haven't got there yet. But I would take her to 3 or 4 and have 3 or 4 quesitos and say, okay, we're going to try these 3 or 4 quesitos. That's the first thing we're going to do.
Taste test.
Yes, exactly. And then for dinner, this is all going to be around food because that's just what I love. But for dinner, we always go to La Nachera. La Nachera is one place I always take people to, and it's a Puerto Rican-owned nacho business here, and on the island. And it's this dad and this son, and they're just these Puerto Rican dudes who are the kindest, happiest, friendliest people ever, and I adore them. They make the best nachos I've ever had in my entire life. But I would take them to go do that. I take it. It would all be around food. That would all be
Oh
like.
my God.
But
That is,
would you take them, like, for example, when people come to visit me here in Seattle, we go to the Space Needle and we go to
Yeah.
Pike Place Market. Would you take them to like Old San Juan and El
Oh yeah.
Morro and stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I've taken my family. We've all toured El Morro. We've walked the streets of Old San Juan multiple times. We've gone over to Vieques and Culebra, and then so
Oh, that's so
those are
cool.
really cool. I feel like I still have so much more to learn. Like I haven't visited many museums or done anything, which that's really fascinating to me. But I just haven't because I have kids and it's just not their what they would go do normally.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
again,
yeah.
again, her response was so organic
What?
towards
What response
her response of
around food?
where would she take people when they
Everything is
visit.
around food.
It is.
No,
It's all.
not only around food, around local raw businesses.
Oh yeah, we would never go to McDonald's. That's not.
Oh gosh.
You're
I
No,
talking
of course
about the
not.
nacho dudes. That's awesome.
oh, I love those guys. They're so awesome. They're so
Yeah,
awesome.
arroz con habichuelas, or everything.
Oh, I love
Um, and
habichuelas.
by the way, you said that s- your neighbor or your friend calls you a gringa. You know that that's not a negative term.
I I take it as a when someone says you're my little gringa, I'm like that is the most cute. Like I'm honored that you've adopted me in that sense.
Do you know where gringo comes from?
I know I heard it a lot growing up in Arizona, but I didn't.
That's funny you say that, because you say that everyone should speak English and Spanish, and in Arizona there are so many bilingual people. But gringo, I think, is a term that came from the war. I think it was a Spanish American War. I'm not sure, but whenever they saw Americans approaching, at war, and the Americans were wearing the camouflage, the green outfit, they would
Ah,
say "green go" because it's a green outfit. Green go, like go away. And so that's where gringo comes from.
oh my God, Marigenia.
That's very interesting.
Hey, listen, ChatGPT exists for some reason. You can look up everything. But anyways,
So
yeah, that's very cool.
gringo is like saying boricua for us.
Oh
Yeah.
really?
Boricua,
Okay.
yeah. So
Well,
they,
no, but because Boricua is it's actually who we are. Gringos are for Spanish speakers, because people in Mexico use that term. In Spain, gringo is just a
ah,
representation of
es
what
verdad.
Americans are. That it's not necessarily who Americans feel they are,
That's fair.
and we
That's
feel
that's true.
Boricua,
That's
but
true.
it's who we think Americans are. But again, we never say that term gringo gringa negatively. We don't mean to.
Okay. No, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
So Ray,
Um,
before we start, Marigenia, I don't know if you have any question in mind. I have a few that I would still want to hear from her. Um,
oh, I do, but you might be asking the same question: is what would, if an American contacted you and said, "Hey, I'm moving to Puerto Rico. What do you recommend? What are the things that I should do to prepare for this move, to become part of a community? Something that someone. What would an American need to know about moving to Puerto Rico?"
I think the biggest thing is coming here with the mindset of I'm going to adapt to their culture, right? Not thinking, oh, I'm going to, I haven't met personally a lot of people who have said, oh, like I'm here in Puerto Rico and I want to make it like America. But I've heard from Puerto Ricans that they've had negative experiences with those from the states in the past. Like coming to the island and saying like, oh, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working, so I'm gonna change it, rather than just like adapting to the culture. Where obviously, if, like things. And that's hard because I want to differentiate. I'm not saying like the power outages, things like that do need to change, right? Like that does need to improve. But I'm saying like coming and saying like, oh, I need the same amenities that we have in the United States, so I'm going to franchise all these things to the United States rather than supporting local businesses, rather than, trying to learn Spanish. I'm going to go up to people and just hope they speak English rather than, rather than trying to speak Spanish. So I think one big thing is I would tell that, whoever's moving here, I'd say just try to get involved in as much as you can. Like, it's going to be a very humbling experience for you, and that's good. It's very good, but just let yourself be humbled. Like, understand that you will not know everything. You won't understand why they do certain things, and that's okay because you're learning. You need to just go with that open mind of like, okay, I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm going to try to get my kids involved in the community. I want to try, and try to adapt to the way that they do things here, rather than coming with, a mindset of, oh, I'm going to change them. Because there was one experience I had where I witnessed like someone from the States who was very frustrated because their server wasn't getting their food to them very quickly. And things like that. I was, they weren't saying anything to the server, but you could hear them at their table. And I was like,
Oh my God.
oh, that's something I can see. You just notice things. You become aware. And I was like, almost embarrassed, but and they weren't, obviously they were just talking amongst each other. They weren't, but I was just like, oof, okay. So that's another thing. Like, just be patient, be kind, assume the best, assume that the cook accidentally dropped your food on the floor, and so they're remaking the entire thing for you, so you don't have to, rather than, oh, they're purposely putting someone else above me, or how come that person got their food first, or just, come with an open mind, be patient, and just be willing to learn Spanish, be willing to adapt to them. Like, it really,
I always say that Americans have the best customer service, and I really do believe
That's
that.
true.
But Puerto Ricans and their customer service is like above and beyond. I mean, if you are in a locally owned business and say, "Oh, I don't like this rice and beans," immediately they say, "Let me make that plate again for you." I mean, no questions asked. And by the way, a compliment that I want to give you is you almost feel like a American / Puerto Rican because you have the right attitude. You have the attitude and the approach and the acceptance of Puerto Ricans. So it's almost like you feel like a Puerto Rican in the body of an American.
that is the highest of all compliments. That is like, I
But
don't even feel
just
words
having
for
this
that.
conversation, I can tell that I mean, listen, when both Ana-Rosa and I moved to the US, or any Puerto Rican that moved to the US, we're not moving to like Seattle and saying, oh, try to speak my language because I just moved to your country. But Puerto Ricans, yeah, they feel like the highest necessity of like, oh gosh, let me speak her language, you know?
Yeah, your attitude has been, I'm so glad that we met you and we were able to bring you to the podcast because the experience that Puerto Rico is facing right now has a lot to do with a lot of Americans that are moving to the island and wanting to change things around. And that's part of what Bad Bunny is trying to, that's the reason why he's so strongly about voicing what he believes in.
Well, if you watch his documentary,
Yeah.
that's what he
If
says.
you,
But
I,
yeah, but
yeah, that's what it means. So you're bringing a completely different, fresh, loving aspect of an American moving to Puerto Rico. So
I will say it again, and it's like it's a Puerto Rican in the body of an American.
yes,
See,
Ray.
but here that almost like because it's so like I appreciate that because that's like the kindest and highest of compliments. And then the other part of me, it feels like sad because I'm like, why do people not just naturally think that way? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I had to put all that work and effort into being like, oh, like I should, learn Spanish. I should do these things. But I'm like, why the heck would I ever move somewhere and think, oh, why don't you speak English? Like, that's like, I would never go to Germany and say, hey, you should speak English. Like, that's just not, it's, I don't
Exactly.
understand why that's even a
Because
thought.
that's what you started saying. You used twice. You have used the word that we've been underrated. People think that they can go to Puerto Rico and just do whatever they want with Puerto Ricans. At least that's how a lot of people in Puerto Rico feel. And that's what a lot of Americans are doing. And when you say you feel sad, I think it's part of you are an American. So of course you have to feel sad when you hear that your people are behaving in a way that it's not aligned with your values. It's like when Puerto Ricans do things that I'm like, dude, what's going on with you? No. So I'm happy that you feel sad about it because that means that your values are very aligned. You are an American.
Yeah,
That's
it
who
is. And I feel like this, even sometimes too, I have to remember, sometimes living on the island, I'm like, I do feel guilty, like, renting an apartment on the island. Like this belongs to like the Boricua people, to Puerto Ricans, to, all that. Like, I'm like, Trav, you're going to school here and stuff. And you do have this internal battle, at least I have, where I'm like, do I belong here? Should we actually not be here? Should we, because you're like, I want so badly for those, for the Puerto Rican people to be like, be able to go home and to be there and to feel at home and to do all that. But in the same breath, it's like, but what if I can open resources? And what if I can create opportunities for more Puerto Ricans to come back, or for Americans to have a different attitude about it, or for, like how can you use this situation for good? Because I feel guilty, but I can't leave, but at least not until my husband's done, but I'm like,
No, I think that you can transform that because Marigenia said you're like a Boricua living in the body of an American, which can be hard to hear because it's like we don't want you not to be an American. The beauty of what you're doing and the beauty of what you're trying to do with your platform is showing Americans as an American, and you look like an American. So that's the beauty of what you're doing. You are an American, letting people know the beauty of Puerto Rico from the eyes of an American. I think that what you're
Through the
doing,
yeah,
yeah, there's so much meaning in what you're doing. I don't think it's an
because
accident that you guys are in Puerto Rico and you were placed there. There's I think that it's amazing what you're doing. And
bec-
you will keep your voice will keep on being heard.
I hope so. I
because
hope
even Bad Bunny might be biased because it's his home, but you are not biased. You're being very very objective about everything that you are reporting, the way people treat you, all of it.
You're putting a lens of the beauty of the island from the eyes of an American woman, a mother raising a family in Puerto Rico.
gracias. Like that's so kind to hear you say that too, because that's how I hope like that's, things are always misinterpreted, and I just all the time I'm so intentional with what it is, so organic with everything I post and with everything I put out on social media. But at the same time, I'm very intentional with, okay, is this going to, how will this benefit either the small businesses in Puerto Rico, or how will this help, someone else see from a different point of view? Like, it's very much thought out. I don't just throw something out there because I'm like, oh, this is funny. Woo. Like, it's not. I don't feel like I'm naturally a very funny person, so that's not really my angle. But I'm like, I am naturally genuine, and I do love small businesses, and that's, if I can help in the smallest way, bring that light to, and have people too. People come from the States, or people come back home, and they
Yes.
go to the same places because they just don't know where else to go. So I'm like, okay, what if I
But
can help them support more locally because they finally hear about them, or I don't know. But
and it's not only that, but you're also being so positive about things that many people, Americans, Puerto Ricans, are challenged about. Like, and I'm gonna give you an example of a post that I think it was a story you posted where you were leaving Walmart and you spent like an hour in traffic in the parking lot. In the parking lot, and you're reporting that from your car
Oh
with
my
a
God.
smile and laughing and kind of like, oh my God, my husband needs to be in class in half an hour and I've been here for an hour. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool that she's reporting this with a smile on her face, and kind of like laughing and finding humor in a very challenging situation. So that's very cool. That and that's who you are. American,
Yeah,
Puerto Rican.
I don't want you to feel that you are not belonging in Puerto Rico. I even think that if anybody who loves Puerto Rico and is trying to make a life in Puerto Rico sees you as the American doing what you're doing, they're gonna love it.
Oh, gracias.
They're gonna love it because you're giving it a full different lens. So even I can tell you that I'm pretty sure that anybody that would with this all this movement, Bad Bunny, the people, and anybody would feel very proud of what you're doing. So don't feel you need to leave.
That's
Because you
very
feel
kind.
you're like an ambassador.
I
You're an
Exactly.
ambassador of Puerto Rico.
I just
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's this deep. It is really passionate. Like I feel so deeply passionate about even just the way that Puerto Ricans speak Spanish. You know, like the differences in the dialect. I love it. I think
Yeah, we
it's
have our own dialect.
it is. It's a totally different dialect, and it's the only part I really struggle with is how fast it is. I'm like, okay, I gotta keep up. I gotta think. You gotta. Your brain moves a lot quicker, but like it is so beautiful. The different words you use, the way you pronounce things. Like I don't know. I feel like I like to pick it apart and be like, why, where did that come from? And it always comes from something. It's not just because just because you want to. Like it came from somewhere, and that's where I think it's beautiful. Is I'm like that your history is intertwined with your language, with your everything. And when with you saying about the tapon, like, what are you gonna do about it? You're stuck in tapon. Like it's my fault for not planning better. Like really, that's when you get to you've been here long enough, and it's like having a doctor's appointment at 9. Like you better not be scheduling anything else the rest of the day because you're gonna be there all day. And if you do, it's kind of on
Oh
you,
my God, so true.
it's because you just like you said, you adapted. You just make the most of it. You're like, well, that's just it's kind of nice. It's taken a lot of. I care a lot less than I did a year ago about things like traffic and about things that But just you realize you come to notice like what's really important, like why and I feel like that's also like what the root of all Puerto Ricans and why they're so happy and why they're so kind is because they have lived this way for so long and they're like, what's really important? Like, it's my family.
Yeah,
Keeping my friends safe. It's
yeah.
being a Boricua. It's being, it's whatever it is that, it comes down to the root of it. And that's just, you just feel this weight lifted off as soon as you do that. And you're just like stuck in tapon. Like, there are worse things in the world, like, than being stuck in traffic.
That's so cool.
Mira,
That's so cool.
mic
That's
drop,
such great perspective. Mic
mic
drop.
drop.
Yeah.
That's a good line for closing.
Yeah,
Because honestly,
yeah, that's
what you
that's the
just
best
said
way
is,
to close.
yeah, yeah, is the best way to close.
I have some
So,
rapid fire questions.
well, Marigenia, I have to go because I have a client now. So
Okay, well, I'm gonna do the rapid fire.
I will leave you with the rapid fire questions. But Ray, you are going to be back here with us again because I love the conversation with you. I think that we have a lot of things in common that we could keep on talking about in future episodes. So, and when I go to Puerto Rico, I would love to meet you in person.
I would love that.
Thank you. Thank you for loving the island so much. Thank you for loving the Puerto Ricans so much. And thank you for seeing the beauty in who we truly are and what we really
And
are
being the
in the core.
ambassador that you have become.
Yeah. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I'm so proud of being a Puerto Rican and so proud of you doing something that puts a lens on who we are. So thank you for that.
Well, that means a lot. Thank you. Gracias, gracias, gracias. Like I can't
Bueno,
thank you enough.
I have to go, but Marigenia will stay there with you doing the interview.
Rapid fire.
Nos vemos. Gracias again.
Okay, bye.
Adiós.
Adios. Okay, so every episode we close with a rapid fire questions that I'm gonna ask you.
Okay.
Um, they're not meant to be intimidating, so they're very easy.
Okay.
First question, Ray, what is the best sandwich?
What is the best sandwich just out of any? Sorry, I didn't hear that last part of it. What was
Yeah. What is the best sandwich? And it doesn't have to be in Puerto Rico, just in general. Like for me, it's a grilled cheese.
a grilled cheese? That's a loaded question. That is a very loaded question because Oh, I think okay. The first one when you said that, that came to the top of my mind from La Amiga is called the Cubana sandwich. That right now,
Ah, el
that's
cubano.
Cubano. That's my
Well,
favorite.
you know what? If if uh if I was in Puerto Rico, I would say either un cubano or medianoche. If you haven't had a medianoche, you need to.
Uh-uh.
It's made with a pan sobao, which I know you like.
Yes, so much.
So try a medianoche. You're gonna be pleasantly surprised. Okay, what's in your nightstand?
It's on my nightstand. Well, we're right in front of it right now, and there's a box of nothing, of trash, of like that I need to get rid of. A Ross, a little Ross tag from a shirt I just bought. And that's it. That's all that's on my nightstand right now.
Okay, okay.
Little trash.
A true mom of little kids. Okay. What was your first concert?
The Cheetah Girls.
The Cheetah Girls.
Do you know who the Cheetah Girls are?
I have heard of them.
Oh, they're
I'm trying
Disney
to
Channel
picture them.
original series.
I was gonna say, is that like a Disney Channel group?
It is. It was my first concert ever. It was, yeah, I was
Oh
like
my
10
God,
years old.
you must be my daughter's age or close to it.
I am
Um,
27, so yeah.
oh, so there you go. My daughter's 26.
Yeah.
Um, what is the most you see? I could be your mom.
Which
Um,
you're
what is the most used app on your phone?
Instagram. Unfortunately, I'm trying to break my addiction. That is the most used app.
Well, no, but you are a micro influencer,
That's true.
so that makes sense,
Yeah, definitely Instagram.
as it should be. Okay, so you have to listen to one song for the rest of your life. What is that song?
Right now, Échame la culpa. Have you heard that? I love that song. Échame la culpa.
Échame la culpa. Who sings this?
I believe it's Fonzie and Demi Lovato.
Oh,
I love that song.
ooh, I'm gonna look it
Or
up.
yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay, I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
definitely an extrovert for sure.
Okay. What is your earliest memory?
I think my earliest memory is when I was with my parents and my grandparents, and uh, we went and toured. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints, and we went and toured some of the church history sites back in Palmyra, New York, when I was like 4 years old. And that, for some reason,
Oh,
is my
okay.
first memory.
Very cool. Very cool. Um, if you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, or maybe dead and alive, who would it be? One dead, one alive.
That's tough. What would it be?
See, these are unaided questions for a reason.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of all the people who have ever been alive and dead. I'm like, I can't think of this person anymore. um, huh. Alive I don't know. Maybe Jesus? That'd be good. He's
Oh my God, that's what I was gonna say. My sister always says Jesus.
yeah, that's the only person I can think of. you know, but yeah, yeah,
That
Jesus.
would be a special one.
That would yeah. I'd need a pen and paper for that. That's for sure.
Okay. All right. Um, okay. So because this podcast is about the sisterhood that my sister and I have, what does sisterhood mean to you? I mean, have you kept in close touch with your sisters or with your friends, or have you made new friends? What does that mean to you?
Sisterhood is everything to me. I feel like the sisters are your support, and I'm very far from both of my sisters right now. My biological sisters, one of them's in Utah, and the other one's in Alaska, and so the
Oh,
way
wow.
we support each other is very different than those who I consider my sisters here in Puerto Rico. And my sisters and I, we call each other, we text it, but we're very much like an emotional support. You know, we keep each other together, we keep our family together, and keep those ties strong, even though we're thousands and thousands of miles apart. And so to me, it's not, I feel like sisterhood goes beyond just like distance, you know, physical distance, but
Yeah.
it's those who you can connect with and who you can go years without talking to and then reconnect with. Like it's never, you know, like nothing has changed. But also, sisterhood to me, like with me and my sisters here in Puerto Rico, I had a friend this morning who just she had a baby a couple weeks ago and she had a doctor's appointment this morning. And so I went to go watch her baby and I had another friend who came over to watch my kids while I went to go watch her baby, you know, and then like it's just having that village, having that community of just like, hey, who do I call? Oh,
Yeah.
I'll call you, you know, and just having that bond and that support system, whether you're close, like physically, or whether you're thousands of miles away, you know, it can look different. But I think both are important emotionally and physically, and just creating that sisterhood it's something that is just, I feel like almost sacred, you know, where,
Oh, very cool. Yeah, that it's survival to me.
yeah,
Um, okay, last question. Describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
the rest of my
And it
life.
could be a sentence or just random words.
Oh, man, 5 words. Um, Life is to be enjoyed.
Oh, life is to be. Oh my God, I love that. That's
I
so
do.
cool. Well, that's a wrap up of Ray in Time to Call Your Sister.
I'm so honored you had me on here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And like my sister said, I'm pretty sure we'll want to have you back. I don't know if you'd be willing to, but
I'm
we
always
will
willing.
yeah, we'll love to have you back. So thank you so much for joining and yeah, and we'll see you. I'll see you on Instagram for sure.